And this is where Charlie Munger says that you show me the incentives, I'll show you the behavior, right? So the incentives were not aligned. The incentives made the employees shirk work. If I'm getting paid the same, why should I work more? So a lot of organizations, I feel, get the incentives wrong.
So, hi Vihang.
Hi,
nice
Samir.
to see you again. So I was just thinking about this concept of, about being is there something called a happy employee? What do you think?
Is there something called as a happy human being? First of all.
Okay. That's a much more wider canvas for me. So I'll tell you where I'm coming from. So because if you see, anywhere and everywhere you see, maybe on LinkedIn or somebody, every time people are complaining about how workplaces are not good. And the buck is always passed on the company for being very unfair, or the biggest villain is the boss.
Correct.
The boss is not good. So I was just thinking at the root of it, okay, why can't it be that, when there is so much of science, technology, research on behavioral science and culture of the companies happening, why is it that this balance can never be sought? Okay, yeah, ultimately we have a company where people are happy. So, what do you think about that? What has been your experience? You have worked in the corporate for so many years.
Yeah, I think, first of all, philosophically, I feel that you spend your entire life making even one person happy. You can spend your entire life and die for it, but you cannot make anyone happy.
Okay.
Forget others, it is so difficult to make your own self happy all the time, right?
Yes.
So this eternal happy employee is I believe, a utopian concept, which is not a practical one. Let's be practical. An employee is giving his 8-9 hours to the organization, and an organization is paying for his time and his skills.
Right.
In fact, that is the reason why HR calls it compensation. You're being compensated for your time, and sometimes you're compensated for your happiness or the lack of it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but unfortunately, we have made this into a whole concept about that the, employee is part of a family. We call it family some days, but families don't break up with a 30-day notice.
Yes.
Right. So let's just understand that this is a transactional relationship. Nowadays we don't even have employees who stay in the same company for their life.
Yes.
The average tenure is 3 years, right? So by the time the guy settles in, he's already looking for a new job.
Yes.
So one has to understand that, this is the relationship between the employee and the employer. What you can instead do is maybe something like some of the great companies have done, like Google. We talk about Googleplex, right? Create an environment where the person feels good about himself and the office and start giving his best.
Right.
Right. Most of the times, and this data suggests that an employee is not just happy because you pay him the highest. He is happy because you give him an environment. He is happy because you're participating in his dreams, making his vision come true. Those are all the things that an employee wants.
Right. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So when you have, let's say, the goal, how do we make this a workplace where most people would want to spend more time here, right? How do we make it a workplace where we participate in the employee's vision for himself, right? That is when a workplace start becoming a happy workplace and an employee start becoming an happy employee.
Right. But then there are very few companies like Google who can do it. Why does every company not do it?
Yeah, because it's not, first of all, Google has a product which has such high profit margins where they can.
There you are. They can afford that.
They can afford that, right? So not every company has those kind of monopolistic products, etc. But let's say, some of the few companies which don't even have such big balance sheets. If you make your employees a workplace which is respectable, just give him basic respect, just speak well with it. Like in our organization, we have one rule that nobody will, talk to someone else in a loud tone.
Okay.
That's a rule. And we follow that. If you have to communicate, if you're not happy about something, that can be communicated in a respectable way, right? But this is a huge exception now. I don't think many workplaces operate that way.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you can't afford a great campus and a great pantry like Google, I think you can have an environment where people are polite with each other.
Yes.
Right. That doesn't take a big balance sheet.
Yes. So I'll take this conversation to some other end, because to some other point, because I feel, these days the employees also. So this is what the organization can do. But if you see, like in your organization, so people are there for a very long time, but that is also an exception. So in most of the cases, you will see that employees also have these youngsters these days have this paradigm that I should leave the job in 2-3 years.
Correct.
So even if everything is good, they still have that rule at the back of their mind. With 3 saal ho gaye, I need to look at something, and which will give me 40% rise or 50% rise. And most of them think that way.
Correct.
Don't you think that paradigm also needs to change?
See, people don't want to go to an unfamiliar place just for money. And I seriously feel that there is some merit in that statement. I think it was Narayan Murthy who said that employees don't change their organization, they change their bosses.
Okay.
If you are a good boss and if you follow the basics, there will be people who might get better opportunities, but a majority of people actually don't want frequent change in your life. Do you want to shift your workplace, your house, your timings? In a city like Mumbai, the commute is so harsh. Do you want to shift all that just because somebody is going to pay you 20% higher? And that's not going to, last long also, because everyone needs to be competitive, right? The difference between you and someone else is not going to be that high for a long time. So in my experience, I think employees are not wrong in wanting to change the organization, but they say that they change the organization for the money, but usually it is for the environment. And I feel, having been a boss as well as an employee, I feel that a lot of that environment is fostered by the superiors and the guys who they're working for.
Okay.
Right. In a labor surplus country like India, you are able to treat employees in a way which will not be acceptable outside, right? And that is the reason why we have such high attrition. Our organization is a prime example where, right from the guy in the pantry to the senior most employee, people have been around for 20 years.
Right.
Right. If you make them participate in your growth, if you make them, if you give them an environment where they want to come to office, right? I don't think many people would want to, uproot their life completely every 3 years.
Okay. So then there is another question that comes to my mind. Okay, would it not happen? So there are 2 points. So the first point is, would it not happen that if you have a very good environment and you are treating your employees very well, how do you make them accountable? Is there a possibility that sometimes they get too pampered and don't give in their best?
So this is, this brings me to a case study about my favorite, mentor, Charlie Munger. There's a case study where FedEx wanted to increase the productivity and the accountability of its employees. Whatever they paid, whatever they did, an employee, the job was to put a certain number of boxes in airplanes so that the flights can take off. But the guy is, whatever number of, whatever changes in the environment they did, a guy would only be able to put, let's say, 40 boxes in his 9 hours of work.
Yeah.
Okay, there is some number which I don't remember, but let's say 40 boxes in 9 hours. And this was a problem that FedEx had all throughout, right? They appointed a consultant, and the consultant asked them that how are the guys getting paid? So like every American business, the guys were getting paid on per hour basis, right? So then it doesn't matter how many boxes they put, they will get paid the same. Then they changed this metric to, let's say the employees start getting paid per box instead of per hour. Suddenly, without any other change, from 40x, the productivity went up 2x, 3x. The same employee could put in 80, 120 boxes.
Right.
Right? What happened here? And this is where Charlie Munger says that you show me the incentives, I'll show you the behavior. Right? So the incentives were not aligned. The incentives, made the employees shirk work. If I'm getting paid the same, why should I work more? Right? So a lot of organizations, I feel, get the incentives wrong.
Right.
And, that is because the very basis of, the transaction between an employee and an employer is that an employer thinks how can I get the maximum from the employee, and vice versa. Right?
True.
But they treat it like a zero-sum game. If the employer takes the maximum from the employer wins. The employee feels if I take the maximum from the employer, I win. Right? They treat it as like a zero-sum game. Only one of them can win. When actually it is not a zero-sum game. They can grow the pie itself.
Right.
Right? So if the incentives are such where the employee participates in the company's growth, then he would love to put 2x more effort, or he would love to do smart effort so that the company grows, and then the employee will grow itself.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that incentivization is the root of the problem rather than anything else.
Okay. Absolutely right, and that is how it works. However, there is another possibility, because see, these days these companies have this mindless idea of growth. So nothing is enough. So if I have 100, then tomorrow I want to have 200. And there are many companies where they feel that for that 200, instead of hiring more employees, let me put a load on the existing employees.
Correct.
So as a resultant effect, even if the boss wants to be good, maybe he is not given the kind of manpower he needs to reach that 200.
Correct.
So he has to put all that load on the employee, and sometimes there is no end to it. Like even if he gives 150, he may say, why can't you do 175?
Correct.
On the other end, it could also be that the employee who is working there, he is getting paid 100, but he always wants that, I want 150. So maybe he has not built in that productivity or the time to say that within that 8 hours I can contribute to 150. The competence has not increased. But just because his friend is getting more, he feels, these days. So is it a possibility that sometimes the employee also doesn't know what he can give? Or does he really deserve, or does he have the capacity to deliver 150 when he's demanding a salary of 150?
Sure.
Because he feels that, somebody else is getting it, so I should also get it. And vice versa, the company feels if I'm paying you 150, then I have the right to squeeze everything out of you. So is this mismatch possible?
So I guess the problem is in terms of the horizon. We speak about Google, right? But Google had a vision and a horizon which is many decades.
Yeah.
How do we create a business which lasts? Look at Amazon, right? Somebody asked Jeff Bezos, how will the world change? He said, I don't know how the world will change, but I know what will not change for the next 20, 30, 40 years, which is customer centricity.
Yeah.
So these guys look at 30, 40, 50 years in terms of running a business.
Right.
Right. Somebody said the difference between the various type of employees, it's a bit funny. Like the guy at the bottom of the pyramid, the daily wage laborer, he thinks in number of hours, how many hours I work and how much compensation I get. His manager thinks in terms of months, this is how much I have to do this month. These are my targets, right? And the CEO thinks in terms of years.
Yes.
This is just 1 year. In 1 year, if I do this, this is the bonus that I get. But an entrepreneur thinks decades. Right. Now, the answer to your question, Samir, somewhere lies in getting the bottommost employee to think decades.
Right.
Not ours. Right. So if the employee, the bottommost employee feels that, okay, if I give my life to this organization, if I work here for 20, 30 years, that I would make more money, or I would live a much better life than I would, if I keep switching jobs every 3 years, then why would he leave?
Yes.
But the problem is that even the CEO can only look at his next bonus. That is his vision. Right? That vision gets translated to the next guy in terms of months. He divides his targets, and then days, and then hours. Right? So I guess there are no right answers, because everywhere, including social media to shareholders, we are living in a world of instant gratification.
Yes.
Right? Where we want everything yesterday, not even today. So in that kind of environment, it is very difficult to create an environment which looks at decades. But I feel that's where
the answer lies. True, very true. Because I think then visionaries is actually a very rare breed these days. Because if you see most of the startups also, I think you have hit the nail there, because most of the startups also, their horizon is only 4 years.
Yeah.
So I want to create a company and then sell it in 4 years.
Yeah.
So अगर 4 साल में मुझे ही बेचना है, so then that is going to percolate to the next level and the next level. So everybody thinks I have to just go to make my money and then get out of here.
Exactly.
And that's where the stress gets translated. And probably that was not there in the previous generation, where people used to think that I want to have this company for the next 2 or 3 generations. And so people used to join there and say, once here, I am always here.
Correct.
And they gave their heart, soul, brain, everything to the company, and that's how the things prospered. So if you have a long-term vision, and if you are able to show that vision to the employees, then probably they stick around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. There was a good example which came to my mind, which I would like to share, is like, when is a life born in an egg? So when a hen lays an egg, there is a male sperm and there's a female egg, and then the egg needs to be incubated, and in 21 days all the organs develop, and then slowly and steadily there is a beak from inside which starts pecking, and the shell breaks and the life is born. So that inspiration to give your best, that dedication in every employee has to be born inside once the employee joins the organization, and he needs to be nurtured. And that happens when a male egg and a female egg comes in. That means the organizational goals and the individual goals, when they merge.
Correct.
And then they are nurtured. So the organization is also sure that if this guy stays with me, he's going to help me go where we want to go. And the employee is also sure that if I stay with them, they're going to help me reach where I want to reach in my life. And then the inspiration is born. And then they give the best. Conversely, if that does not happen, then the pressure on the egg is from outside. And when the pressure on the egg is from outside, the egg breaks and the end result is omelette. So I think that's where the stress comes in, and that's what happens to most of the employees. They become omelettes because they are not nurtured. The pressure is always from outside. Now, if you keep them in a fridge, they last for a long period of time, but ultimately it's going to be an omelette. So if you give them bonuses and if you say कि 3-4 साल रहो, and if you ignore them, then the egg rots. And I think that is what happens with most of the people in this world. So what we need is an environment which nurtures the vision of the employee and the employers. So in this case, I feel both of them don't have the vision.
So think about it. Like we like you just said that why do employees want to leave organizations every 3 years, right? I have a question for you. How many government employees have you seen leaving their job in 3 years?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They are also employees, and I don't think government is the highest paymaster as well.
Yes.
And I don't think 100% of the employee department, government departments also, have other incentives, right? But there are employees which stay in a government for their life.
Yes.
Many of them are very honest and dedicated employees. Why is that? The answer I feel is because first, the government does many things wrong, but one thing is that it gives them a long-term vision. The government will be around for their career, 40 years, right? Their job will be there. The government will not shut down like other companies.
Yes.
A. B, they know that if they are around there, their own, whatever their vision for themselves is, that has a higher likelihood of getting fulfilled. They'll get some pension, they'll get a good job security. The environment is not really as toxic as some of the private sector, although the pay in private sector might be double or triple, right? So maybe I'm not sure that all the points always ring in true for all cases, but there is some semblances in this, that even in this world of instant gratification, when a police job opening comes in, you still have for every 100 job applications there will be 1 lakh applicants, right? There might be other incentives, I'm not denying it, but what I'm trying to say is that people in general are not, the employee is not at fault always. That he is not a short-term animal who just wants to keep jumping. If you give him enough incentives and enough, if you participate in his vision for himself, I don't think he will want to move.
Yeah, but then just to argue in that, not necessarily all the employees in the government are happy doing what they are doing, and they may not give the best. So the suffering people are the people the citizens, because all the government employees don't always give their best.
Yeah, which is what I said, that the happy employee is a myth, right? What we are trying to do is how to create an environment where the employee stays with an organization for a long term, and how the employee also gives his best.
Yeah.
Now
that's the challenge.
Yeah. Now the problem with government is the incentives are not right, but the environment is not that wrong. So for companies, who are able to get the incentives right as well as the environment correct, I guess that's where the secret lies.
So then, what I collect from this discussion is that 3 things. Number 1 is the vision. So I think whoever is the organization, whether it's the government or any organization, they need to have a long-term vision. So they need to be knowing where they are going, align their vision with the employees. Okay, this is where we are going and we can take you there. So show them the bigger picture. That is point number 1. Point number 2, give them an environment which nurtures them and tells them that that this is where you can give your best. And the third is give them the right incentives for performing well.
Correct.
So once you have the environment, so any of these 3 things are missing, then I think we have lost the balance.
Correct.
So either there is no vision,
correct,
but there is a very good environment.
Correct.
He is still not going to be there for long because he's going to get fed up. मैं जा कहाँ रहा हूँ life.
Correct.
You have a great vision, but you squeeze everything out of him, so you don't give him a good environment. And you give him both, then you need to give him with the right incentives. And then I think the magic happens.
There is a third part where some organization gets the incentives right. Like all these consulting firms, they pay you a lot, right? But I don't think the environment is always great.
Yeah, that's
right?
what.
At the same time, the vision is not great
there.
Either.
Yeah.
So then you will see people getting burnt out after working for 10 years. So the magic, I guess, lies in all 3. Whichever organization has been able to, do bits of these 3 right, I guess they have hit the jackpot.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. True. It's wonderful. So get the picture of the right employee. You should have the right focus, the aperture, shutter speed, all has to be right. Then you get a good picture. So vision, environment, and incentives. That is a big challenge. If that can happen, then you have the magic.
Yeah.
So if you are a business owner, you need to get these three things right. And if you are an employee, then you need to be very choosy when choosing the organization you work for. Do they have the vision? Do they give the right environment? And do they have the right compensation? Choose your company and then decide where you want to work. And that's all an employee can do, to choose a good company. Rather than leaving it to chance.
Exactly.
And that's what, if you're a business owner, you can do to align these three.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
So I think that was a wonderful conversation.
Well summarized, Samir.
Okay. Thank you. See you in the next episode.
Thank you.